Imagine standing in the middle of a paleontology museum. Everything around you feels frozen in time until your eyes fall upon a strange slab of stone. Inside it lies not only bone, but the ghostly traces of blood turned to mineral. A trachea, intestines, and even a heart. In that instant, you realize time does not only bury life, it preserves it. Every muscle fiber, every vein, each one locked in stone as if Earth itself were performing the work of an ancient surgeon. Each specimen is a doorway into a past that still breathes within the rock. And sometimes, the most wondrous thing in science isn't discovering a dinosaur's skeleton, but seeing its heart still smiling beneath the light of a laboratory. Scipionyx samniticus, the heart inside the stone. Most of what we know about dinosaurs comes from the hard parts: bones, teeth, scales, and armor. But the rarest discoveries are the soft parts: skin, muscles, feathers, and organs, things that normally vanish within days. Whenever these survive, it feels like a geological miracle, a reminder that nature sometimes knows how to preserve the impossible. Among the few such fossils ever found, only a handful truly let us see inside where hearts once beat, lungs once swelled, and blood once flowed. And leading that group is Scipionyx samniticus, a tiny creature from Italy, often called the first medical photograph of a dinosaur. Around 113 million years ago in what is now southern Italy, a baby dinosaur less than 2 feet long died in a coastal mudflat. Its little body was buried so quickly in oxygen-poor mud that no bacteria could destroy it. Time, instead of erasing it, mineralized every cell, turning it into a natural CT scan in stone. When scientists unveiled it in 1998, the fossil shocked the paleontological world. Never before had a dinosaur been preserved so completely that one could still see its trachea, intestines, and even traces of its liver. The story of its discovery is almost comical. In 1981, a fossil collector near Naples picked up a slab of limestone containing a tiny skeleton. Thinking it was an ancient bird, he coated it in vinyl glue for protection, and unbelievably glued on a fake tail to make it look nicer. 12 years later, after watching Jurassic Park, he thought, wait, maybe this is an actual dinosaur. He brought it to the Natural History Museum in Milan, where scientists scraped off the glue and were stunned to find reddish streaks of preserved soft tissue beneath. The fake tail was removed, and Italy celebrated its first dinosaur fossil. Electron microscope analysis revealed that the internal organs had been phosphatized, their real tissues replaced by calcium phosphate crystals. That can only happen if a body is buried almost instantly in an oxygen-free environment. It was a perfect natural mummification, carried out not by humans, but by the Earth itself. In the neck region, scientists found 8 to 10 C-shaped cartilage rings, the ancient remains of a trachea. Inside the abdomen, glittering intestinal coils still showed distinct sections of the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. At the end of the tract, they even found a coprolite containing fish scales, proof that this little dinosaur was a predator. Because it was only a few weeks old, researchers think its parents might have brought it food, perhaps one of the earliest examples of parental care among theropods. Around the ribs lay a rusty red halo containing iron ions from hemoglobin, pointing to the site of the liver or heart, the very organs that once carried oxygen through its blood. Even though no soft muscles survived, that faint blood stain was powerful evidence of an ancient circulatory system. Incredibly, three-dimensional muscle bundles were also preserved, their sarcomeres still visible under the microscope. The detail is so crisp that the image looks less like a fossil than an MRI scan frozen in stone. Near the tail, the muscles around the hips could still be distinguished, allowing scientists to reconstruct how Scipionyx moved and how its hind limb muscles generated thrust. On its tiny fingers, the keratin sheaths of its claws remain intact, meaning that in life, its claws were longer and sharper than anyone expected, curved like those of a bird of prey. Fossils like this don't just record death, they capture the very shape of life. Thanks to Scipionyx, scientists now understand far more about how soft tissue can survive across millions of years, how a young dinosaur's body functioned, and how dinosaurs, birds, and crocodiles share internal anatomy. The discovery inspired modern imaging studies, micro-CT scans, infrared spectroscopy, and 3D modeling that have since brought to life the inner organs of species like Microraptor and Anchiornis. Scipionyx samniticus is more than a fossil. It's a window into the anatomy of prehistory, a biological manual written in stone. After more than 100 million years, its heart may no longer beat, but through science we can still hear the pulse of ancient life, echoing from within the rock. Sometimes the true miracle isn't finding a dinosaur's bones, it's seeing its heart still smiling beneath the laboratory light. Darlong Wangi, a raptor's last lunch. If Scipionyx was the first X-ray film of a dinosaur, then the next creature is its full-body HD scan. A predator frozen in incredible detail. It's even older, dating back about 121 million years from northern China. A nearly complete raptor fossil still bearing traces of its internal organs. Its scientific name, Darlongwangi. Darlong belonged to the family Dromaeosauridae, the true raptors, swift hunters armed with sickle-shaped claws. In life it measured about 5 feet long, smaller than a greyhound, but its body was covered in a thick coat of downy feathers. On the stone slab unearthed in Inner Mongolia, each feather can still be seen along the neck, back and tail. Beside its foot, archaeologists discovered the skeleton of a small frog. I like to imagine they were sharing lunch. What stunned scientists wasn't the feathers but the faint bluish patch inside the abdomen. Under an electron microscope, that shimmering field appeared as a maze of microscopic crystals, nearly identical to the intestinal tissue seen in Scipionyx. Each tiny phosphate crystal had fused into tubular structures that preserved traces of the small and large intestines. Once again, phosphatization became the artist of life. Bacteria, breaking down the carcass, released phosphate ions that crystallized the tissues within days, turning flesh into stone. Curiously, Darlong's stomach was missing. Paleontologists believe, much like Scipionyx, that stomach acid destroyed this region soon after death. Only the intestines, where acidity was lower, survived long enough to fossilize. The similarity amazed researchers: 2 species separated by tens of millions of years, yet with almost identical digestive layouts. This suggests that meat-eating dinosaurs had remarkably conservative digestive systems, stable across evolutionary time, from giant carcharodontosaurs to small raptors. If there were a recipe for survival lasting 100 million years, then the dromaeosaurs were the culinary masters of the Cretaceous. That blue intestinal field is not just beautiful, it's a fossilized map of life. Researchers compared its structure to that of modern birds of prey such as eagles and owls and found astonishing parallels: a U-shaped gut, a low-lying pancreas, and blood vessels branching like tree roots. This reinforces the idea that birds are not only the descendants of dinosaurs but living heirs of their nearly unchanged physiology. The fossilized brain of an iguanodont. If Darlong lets us glimpse the belly of a predator, then the next fossil opens the head of the mystery. One day, in 2016, on a southern English beach, a fossil collector stooped to pick up a small brown stone, unaware he was holding the first fossilized dinosaur brain ever found. The specimen came from the Wealden Formation, about 133 million years old. Its owner was an iguanodontian, a large, heavy-bodied herbivore that once roamed in herds across swampy floodplains. On the outside, the fossil looked like an ordinary pebble, but beneath its surface lay the imprint of ancient thought. A thinking stone. It sounds like science fiction, yet it is real. What researchers uncovered wasn't just an endocast, the sediment that filled the skull cavity, but mineralized membranes and blood vessels as well. Under the scanning electron microscope, stone-turned collagen fibers appeared as delicate ribbons forming the dura mater and arachnoid mater, the protective layers surrounding the brain. In places, the stone even preserved the subtle folds and grooves of the gray matter beneath, as if the living brain had pressed its own fingerprint into the rock. It was something almost unimaginable. The brain is the first organ to decay, liquefying within hours of death. Yet here, phosphatization happened instantly, in stagnant, oxygen-poor, slightly acidic water. Each neuron was replaced by crystals of calcium phosphate, and in a blink of geological time, thought became mineral. Who says only human memories endure? Dinosaurs, it seems, learned to back up their minds into stone. In the digital reconstructions, the preserved brain region lies near the top of the skull, where the cranial nerves once extended to the eyes, ears, and nose. Scientists colored the model green for brain tissue, red for siderite minerals, pale blue for bone. The preserved gray matter was less than 1 millimeter thick, yet detailed enough to reveal complex folding, unlike anything seen in modern reptiles. In most living reptiles, the brain occupies only half the skull cavity. The rest is filled with blood sinuses. But in this fossil, the brain nearly touched the inner skull walls. Some researchers suggested this meant dinosaurs were smarter than we've assumed, though most agree it's a taphonomic illusion. The brain was flattened during fossilization. Still, the survival of even a fragment of ancient gray matter left the scientific world astonished. This evidence allowed specialists in a niche field, paleoneurology, to compare dinosaur brains with those of crocodiles and birds. The results showed that iguanodonts had well-developed sensory regions, particularly for vision and balance. That means these massive herbivores were not the sluggish creatures once imagined, but fast-reacting and spatially aware, capable of spotting predators from afar. In other words, behind those gentle eyes lay a brain tuned for one thing: sprinting for survival. The importance of this discovery lies not only in the fossil itself, but in how it reshaped our understanding of prehistoric intelligence. For decades, dinosaurs were caricatured as big, dumb brutes. But with every centimeter of fossilized brain tissue, that notion crumbles. We may never measure the IQ of an iguanodont, but we now know its brain was far more complex than the primitive diagrams once suggested. Over 100 million years have passed since those hearts stopped beating. Yet through every phosphate crystal and mineralized muscle fiber, life continues to whisper that death never erases memory. These fossils are not mere geological relics. They are the diaries of existence written in the quietest language of all time. From the tiny heart of Scipionyx to the blue intestines of Darlong and the faint brain imprint of the iguanodont, each reminds us that nature does more than create life. It remembers itself. And perhaps somewhere deeper in the stone, more stories still wait, more heartbeats still waiting to be heard. What do you think would happen if one day we truly found a complete dinosaur brain? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us open the next door to the past.